My foster sister always hijacked my birthday because she didn't have her own. But at my wedding, I did something that drove my parents and sister crazy. She was adopted, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I was happy when we adopted my sister, but I never got used to the fact that she said she didn't have a birthday. Well, she did, but it wasn't her real birthday. It was just a date that a judge had determined based on a doctor's recommendation, and so it didn't feel like a real birthday to her. So my mom said, "You know what? We're going to give her the same birthday that you have. We don't know her real birthday, so we're just going to celebrate it on the same day." What I didn't know was that this would be the beginning of my sister taking over my household. From the time I was a little girl until now, as an adult, my parents have always been focused on my adopted sister. Let me tell you about some of the things that have been done to me. I wonder if not talking about something when it bothers me is what causes 80% of my problems. I never want to upset or disappoint anyone, so I tend to keep things to myself. Unfortunately, I end up feeling overwhelmed and exploding. It can happen that months or even years after something happened, I realized that it bothered me. Recently, it happened again, and it has made me feel bad about myself. Even though my fiancé is convinced that I did nothing wrong, I can't help but feel like I ruined everyone's night. It all started 20 years ago, when my parents brought home P, an orphaned girl. I was 5 years old at the time, and P seemed to be the same age. There wasn't much information about her birth or age, so it was just an estimate. Apparently, P was left on the doorstep of a church, then taken in, and later handed over to social services. My parents decided to adopt her because they felt I was alone. Despite trying to have another baby, they were unsuccessful. That's how my sister came to be. I was excited because I sometimes felt very lonely playing with no one else. I had always envied people who had siblings. So when P came over, we hit it off right away. I even offered her one of my presents. Before we knew it, my mom was watching our conversation and suddenly she told us she would be back in a moment. After a while, she came home with a second cake and told me that she knew how nice I had been to P, who didn't have a birthday, so she wanted to know if I would mind sharing my birthday with her. She told me it would be great to have 2 cakes and double the celebration. She also asked if I would be willing to share my presents. I loved my sister and I didn't want her to feel sad, so I agreed. What I didn't know was that this would be the biggest mistake of my life. It started with small things, like me giving in on a few things to make her happy. Eventually, my parents cared more about her opinion than mine. As we grew up, a rift formed between us. If I got into trouble, I was immediately scolded and punished, but she never received the same treatment. Our parents used the fact that she had spent her early years in an orphanage as an excuse, telling me that she had been through things I could never imagine, and that was why they were so lenient with her. That was the excuse for many years. Over time, I started missing my birthdays. Each year it would start with P picking the theme, until she was getting more presents than me. When I turned 16, I decided I didn't want to celebrate my birthday. I told my parents it wasn't fun anymore and it was childish. The truth was, feeling less special on my own birthday ate at me and made me feel horrible. I thought it would hurt less if I just didn't celebrate it, and for years I haven't. My birthday comes and goes, and I don't tell anyone. My fiancé knows I don't celebrate my birthday, but he has no idea why. I just told him it was too much work, and he accepted that. Sam and I have been together for 3 years, and we're getting married soon, in a couple of days. Sam is kind, caring, loyal, and someone I want to spend the rest of my life with. He makes me feel appreciated and loved, something my family hasn't done in years. Plus, his family is absolutely wonderful. They treat me like one of their own and give me so much warmth and comfort. I'm excited to become a part of his family. Now, the reason I'm writing this is that a couple of days ago, it was P's birthday. It was also my birthday, but since I haven't celebrated it in years, it was P's birthday. My parents invited Sam and I over for the birthday dinner. Everything went as usual, with everyone doting on P and no one even saying, "Happy birthday," to me. Sam has spent a lot of time with my family, but he had never shared a birthday of mine with them, and to me this was normal. However, when he noticed it, it struck him as odd and made me think. Suddenly, he asked my parents why they hadn't congratulated me. Even though I didn't usually celebrate, they just laughed and said that I had given up on my birthday many years ago. Sam commented that it was really interesting that P and I were born on the same day. He knows about the adoption, but not all the details, so he probably assumed that was P's real birthday. Then he commented that he didn't actually know what her birthday was, and said that many years ago I had offered to share my birthday with her. Then he asked if it made her feel bad that I never had a birthday, but she did. After that, she replied that I had really given up on my birthday, so she didn't think I cared. Sam looked at my parents and told them that he didn't think I was okay with what was going on. He asked them why they didn't at least wish me a happy birthday, even though I didn't want to celebrate it. The thing about Sam is that he's very direct, but not rude. If he sees an injustice, he speaks out against it, no matter who it's against. That's something I really appreciate about him. My mother told Sam that he was making a mountain out of a molehill, and that I was completely fine with P having my birthday. She then asked me to confirm it, and that's when I froze. Suddenly, I realized that I wasn't okay with it. I had allowed it for so many years, but inside I felt terrible every time my birthday came around. I just wanted to have a day dedicated to me. Is that too much to ask for? But it was okay, right? Because I was having a wedding. That was what I kept telling myself in the weeks leading up to my birthday. Every time I felt bad about it, I reminded myself that I was getting married a few days later. After my mom popped the question, I looked at my parents and told them it would have been nice for P to have her own birthday all those years. I told them I loved them, obviously, but I felt like they prioritized P over me sometimes. They asked if they should treat her differently because she wasn't their biological daughter. I told them it would have been great if they treated us the same. I didn't want them to treat P as less, but it wasn't fair that they always treated me as less to make up for what she had been through. My parents got really mad and told me I was being selfish. She said if I wanted to have a birthday, I could have just had one instead of resenting her for years. At that point, I felt like crying, so I dropped the subject. They've been acting weird ever since that conversation. I know they're thinking I was selfish and caused drama for nothing. Sam felt really sorry for causing drama at dinner. He was so sweet that he even stopped to get ice cream after he left my parents' house. He had a candle with the ice cream, which was kind of funny because it melted quickly, but the gesture was the point. It was the only place open at that time, and for the first time in years, I felt good on my birthday. I was surprised at how he took my side. I needed that. However, I definitely think I need to talk to my parents about what happened at dinner. They need to stop blaming Sam, because it's not his fault. I should have spoken up and said something years ago. Update: it's been 3 days since my birthday and today is my wedding. But it wasn't at all what I expected. Don't worry, I got married, but there was a lot of drama. It all started in the early hours of the morning when P was hogging the makeup artist and hairstylist. She was offering to do my hair and makeup at the end so it would be fresh when I walked down the aisle. However, once the stylist started working on me, P kept asking them to touch up aspects of her look. I was extremely frustrated and close to exploding, but I kept my composure. The last thing I needed was to walk down the aisle feeling angry, plus I knew there was no way I could win with P. I was in full-on spoiled mode. I love my sister, but she can be a spoiled brat sometimes. Despite everything, I managed to finish getting ready on time and walk down the aisle without any problems. The ceremony went off without a hitch, and everyone was happy. When my husband made his speech, he said he had a surprise. That's when some employees brought out a very large cake. Also, there were a ton of presents. I had never seen so many presents before. Sure, I had received a lot of presents for my wedding, but the ones they brought were just so many. I was extremely surprised and didn't know what to do. Then, my friends started singing "Happy Birthday." I instantly started crying. I was so touched by what Sam had done for me. I hadn't expected it at all. It melted my heart and made me love him even more. After they finished singing to me, Sam made a speech. She told everyone how much she loved me and that she wanted to make this day special for me. She just felt bad that I couldn't celebrate my birthday a few days early, so she did this for me. I was already crying uncontrollably at this point, which upset my makeup artist because my makeup was running down my face and it looked flawless before. After doing a little touch-up, I headed back to the wedding. That's when I ran into my mom and sister, and they didn't look too happy. They told me that we needed to have a family meeting right away. I tried to put it off, but they insisted, so I followed them into a room where my dad was already waiting. As soon as I walked in, my mother asked me what the hell I was thinking. I told her I had no idea what Sam had planned and that I was furious. She said it was incredibly disrespectful of me to surprise everyone. She felt like it was a ruse to embarrass her and the family, as if the reason I wasn't celebrating my birthday was their fault. I mean, what did they expect me to do? I assured them that I was married, that I was just acting up at the moment. I reminded her that P always acted up, but she never got told off. They never said anything about her, but they did to me. She got offended though. Dad claimed that it had all happened a long time ago and that I was just looking for excuses. She felt like I would never accept my sister and that I was trying to punish her by throwing such an extravagant birthday party. I reminded her of all the birthdays she had while I didn't celebrate any for many years and told her she should be happy for me. Speaking of which, P was shaking in the corner with tears in her eyes. She said she felt bad for herself for what I had done. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was my day, but they still thought I should celebrate it with her. Their audacity sickens me. That's when my mother told me to either include her or take the cake and presents to another room so as not to offend P. I told her no, right to her face. I was tired of constantly giving up things for her precious daughter. I told all three of them to get out of my wedding because they were making me angry. I don't know where the anger came from, but I was suddenly very angry and I just couldn't take it anymore. I wanted them to get out of my wedding because they were ruining it. They tried to protest, but then I called security and they were escorted out a different exit. Luckily for them, they weren't thrown out in front of everyone, otherwise it would have been incredibly embarrassing. Other than that, the rest of the wedding went well, and in a few hours, we were leaving for our honeymoon destination. I'll update you on how everything goes. Update: it's been 3 weeks since my wedding and I just got back from my honeymoon. After settling in for a couple days, I decided to update. First off, thank you for the comments you left to wish my fiancé and I good luck. What he did made me love him even more. I mean, no one had ever stood up for my interests like that when it came to my family. I've always felt helpless, everything has always revolved around P. I remember a couple years ago I wanted to go to science camp in the summer but I couldn't because of her. P wanted to go to summer camp and our parents knew about it so they signed us up for our respective camps. I was super excited. Unfortunately, my plans for the summer fell apart a few days before we were due to leave. I was informed that since P wasn't feeling too well, I would have to accompany her to her camp. I asked why she couldn't just stay if she was sick, but she started crying when she was told she couldn't go because of La Llorona. They wanted me to give up mine and take care of her. I got really upset and threw a tantrum because I really wanted to go to science camp. Instead of listening to me, they made me feel guilty for wanting to do something for myself. They have always made me feel this way when it comes to her. They cater to her every whim and deny me any chance at happiness. If she says jump, they ask how high. This has always made me feel small in their eyes. No matter what I do, it doesn't count because it's always for P. I think over the years I have come to resent my adopted sister. I understand that she didn't have the best luck when she was born, but that's not my fault. It's horrible that her birth parents abandoned her, but why am I the one paying for that? The weeks I spend away with my husband made me realize that I've given up enough for P. I've suffered so much for her because of guilt. I'm not the one who took her parents away from her, I'm not the person who left her at the church, but I'm being punished like it's my fault. I'm done with that. From now on, it's all about me. P and my parents have been texting and calling me since my honeymoon started, but I've been ignoring them. I'm not going to let them ruin my honeymoon. I mean, I'm going to enjoy myself and talk to them when I feel ready. And when I do, I'm not going to accept any disrespect. I'm going to stand up for myself and my rights. I have a feeling they're not going to like that very much, that's for sure, but I don't care, it's my time now, not hers. Edit, because everyone has asked me what P's camp was, it was a Chinese cultural immersion camp. The only problem is that she doesn't have Chinese roots nor does our family, so to this day I don't know why she chose that type of camp. Maybe it was because of some movie she saw. Update 3, I've had a hell of a week. I feel incredibly tired. After days of high energy, I don't think I've ever been this upset in my life. I'm so thankful that I put off talking to P and my parents until now. If I had talked to them earlier, I wouldn't have enjoyed my honeymoon, I would have spent the whole time worrying and stressing about their words. Thank goodness I decided to mute the noises until I got back. A few days ago, I finally went to visit my parents and P. Yes, at 25, she still lives with mom and dad. P didn't finish college and has been trying different careers for years. She always has some new course she wants to take, but every time she starts one, she never finishes it. Mom and dad keep investing money into her dreams, even though I think it's a waste of time. When I wanted to continue studying after finishing my degree, they told me they didn't have any money. I had to work and study to get my master's degree. However, I see it as a blessing because it made me stronger. Thanks to that, I don't depend on them for anything. I have my own money, my own property, and meanwhile P is still living at home without having achieved anything on her own. If she is not careful, she will stay there until she is an old woman. But I digress, I should be telling you what happened when I went there. Well, my parents asked me what right I had to ignore them. Then they reminded me of all the things they have done for me. They felt incredibly disrespected because I kicked them out of my wedding. I reminded them that they were disrespecting me and trying to tell me what to do. They didn't contribute to the wedding, so they had no say in it. They also reminded me that I made my sister cry because I didn't want to include her in my birthday celebration. I asked them if I had included her in my birthday, what was next? Was she also going to come with us on our honeymoon? She already had her birthday a few days earlier and she had no business being involved in mine. Honestly, that conversation wasn't productive at all, we just kept yelling at each other. My parents claimed that Sam had changed me, which isn't true. Sam helped me discover myself. I realized that I didn't need them or my sister in my life, I hadn't needed them for a long time. The only reason I kept them in my life was out of a sense of obligation. So now I've decided to block them and cut off all contact with them. It's funny, I didn't even feel remorse when I cut them out of my life. What I felt was a huge relief knowing they were no longer in it. Now I'm excited about my future with Sam. His family has taken me in as if I were one of their own and they are incredibly kind to me, they show me a love I've never seen before. Whatever void my family has left, I'm sure Sam's family will fill it. Right now, I'm going to focus on my marriage and my career. In a couple of years, Sam and I plan to have our first baby. No matter how many kids we have, I'm going to make sure they never feel the way I felt growing up. Parents have no idea how favoritism affects children. It's not fair to treat one child better than another. Even if you have a favorite, one day you may need that child you favored the least, and what will you do then? He may have already closed the doors of his heart to you because of all the mistreatment over the years. Let this be a lesson to parents, playing favorites isn't always the best option. You can still be a good parent by treating your kids equally. Update 4, before we begin, I want to answer some of the thoughts or questions I've been asked in previous updates. One of the most common ones is why your parents didn't give P her birthday. That would have been a great idea, actually. Maybe if my parents had done that, P would have experienced what I felt sharing my special day with someone else. But then again, the reality is that my parents probably love her more than they love me, though not as much as they love themselves. Another comment that struck me as funny was someone suggesting that I find P's real parents and then make them my parents, as a sort of revenge. While I understand the sarcasm, the truth is that even if I could find them, I don't think those people are fit to be anyone's parents. After all, they abandoned P. And yes, I know the comment was meant as a joke. But now, on to what I've come to tell you today, a new crazy thing from P and my parents. You see, P has decided that she wants to adopt a child. Yes, you read that right. She wants to adopt a child because, according to her, she wants to give someone else the same opportunity that she had with our family. And, well, the idea itself, in an ideal world, would be wonderful. I have always believed that adoption is one of the noblest things that someone can do. Giving a child who has been abandoned or who has had a difficult life the opportunity to be part of a loving family is something admirable. The problem here is, well, We're talking about a woman who, at 25, is still living at our parents' house, has no stable job or defined career, and seems to jump from one passion to another without finishing anything. Not that I'm here to judge anyone's path, but adopting a child is a huge responsibility, and it doesn't seem like P has the emotional or financial stability to care for another human being. And if you think that's the worst thing about this update, let me tell you no, it's not, because the most surprising thing is not that P had this idea, but that my parents are on board. That's right, my parents are completely on board with this idea. You'd think that, for once, they would be the voice of reason and tell P that she should focus on her life first before adding the responsibility of caring for a child. But I'm not asking too much of them. Logic and my parents don't go hand in hand. I found out all of this because they made a post on social media that, ironically, came to my husband's attention. The post said something like, "Now that we've lost a daughter, we have room in our hearts for a grandchild." I swear, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The worst part of it all is that some people started commenting, thinking I had passed away. Yes, people asking if I was dead. My parents had to clarify that I hadn't, I had simply abandoned them. Fortunately, many of the people who saw that post attended my wedding, so they have been responding to the comments and telling my side of the story, making it clear that the situation is very different from what my parents are trying to make out. Back to the adoption issue, I really don't think this idea will go beyond just that, an idea. In order for P to adopt, he would need to prove that he is financially stable. He's going to tell the judge that he'll support him with our parents' money, because honestly that's all he has right now. My parents are the ones who continue to fund his failed dreams. You never know though, with the luck that P and my parents have, maybe they'll find some judge as delusional as they are who is willing to ignore all the facts and allow them to continue with this nonsense. While I doubt that will happen, I'm not ruling anything out in this family. Update 5, it's been 8 months and, as expected, there is no adopted child. It seems that my parents and P have either given up on that idea or just haven't gotten around to it. No one has mentioned anything to me about going ahead with that plan, which makes me think it's fallen by the wayside, like so many of my sister's other great ideas. You know how P is, she changes her mind as quickly as she changes the channel on TV. Although, I sincerely hope she'll come to some sense someday, that would be a refreshing change.